A second chance at redemption, a call from the other side, a call from a loved one wanting you to join them. These episodes have been chosen by you, the fans, as the saddest episodes of the Twilight Zone. So I've decided to talk about them here today. Let's go. Night Call, Season 5, Episode 19. One stormy night, Elva Keen, a paraplegic, receives a call from a mysterious person. At first, she only hears static. Then, she hears moaning, and she demands to know who is on the other line. The man keeps calling back, at one point asking,
I want to talk to you.
Leave me alone!
Frustrated and scared, Elva calls the telephone company, who traces the call back to a fallen line inside a cemetery. When Elva and her housekeeper visit the cemetery, she comes to find that the line has fallen across the grave of her deceased fiancé, Brian. Elva laments the fact that she only wanted to do what she wanted. Unfortunately for Brian, he always did what she asked. A week before they were supposed to be married, Brian died suddenly. It's revealed by Elva that she was going to drive that fateful day when she lost control of the car, hit a tree, and killed Brian in the process. What made things worse for her as well is that she rendered herself a paraplegic. Now that she comes to the realization that it must be Brian who's been calling, she doesn't have to be alone anymore. She picks up the phone and calls out to Brian, hoping to get an answer. Brian does answer, and he says,
You said leave you alone. I always do what you say.
Brian! Brian, I didn't know it was you. I thought... Brian, please, please don't leave me. Please speak to me. I didn't mean to say...
The line then goes dead, and Elva is left crying alone in her bed. This is such a sad story on so many levels. The fact that she had to live with killing her fiancé and becoming paraplegic at the same time, only to find that she had a chance to talk to him once more. Death, as you know, is a big fear of mine and something that I always think about. And I always think, what about if you had the opportunity to talk to your loved ones? What if you had the opportunity to speak to someone once again? And especially for Elva, not only did she lose her fiance many years ago, she also has been basically alone this entire time. Maybe always getting what you want is really the theme here, that when you get exactly what you want, you've come to find that it's not what you really wished for. Unfortunately for Elva, she is alone forever. And speaking of wishes, that brings us to our next episode. The Big Tall Wish, Season 1, Episode 27. Bully Jackson is spending time with his neighbor's son before a big comeback fight. He's sort of a washed-up boxer at this point, and he's hoping for a second chance at glory. Henry, the neighbor Francis's son, says that he's going to wish the biggest, tallest wish for Bully. Bully departs for the fight and then gets into an argument backstage before the fight begins. He punches the wall in anger and injures his knuckles, possibly ruining his chances at a comeback fight. But he goes forward with it anyway. He gets knocked down and he's about to lose the fight when suddenly he has switched places with the boxer that he was fighting, and his knuckles don't hurt anymore, and he is now the victor. He can't really understand how he won or how his knuckles don't hurt. He remembers those things. He remembers being in the fight, but he can't remember how he actually got up and continued it. Bully, or I should say the new Bully's manager, explains that he was never knocked down, he never hurt his knuckles, and that he must be imagining things. Once Bully sees Henry again, Henry explains that he made this big tall wish that Bully would win and Bully would actually become victorious. But Bully doesn't really believe that this happened. And Henry warns him that wishes really only have power if people believe in them. Henry begs Bully to believe in the wish.
If you wish hard enough, Bully, it'll come true. If you wish hard enough,
somebody gotta knock it out of you, don't they? Somebody gotta take you by the hair and rub your face into the world till you get the taste and feel of the way things are, don't they?
Unfortunately for Bully, he doesn't believe and insists it did not happen. In an instant, he is back on the canvas and the referee counts him as knocked out. At this point, Bully and Henry don't even remember the fact that there was another outcome to the fight. Henry remembers making this really big, tall wish on behalf of Bully, but since it didn't come true, this poor child says he's not going to make any more wishes ever again. He asks Bully if there even is a thing such as magic.
I guess not, Henry. Or maybe there is magic, and maybe there's wishes, too. I guess the trouble is, I guess the trouble is there's not enough people around to believe.
To have that second chance, I just talked about having second chances talking to a dead loved one, but having a second chance at victory and becoming everything you wish that you had been all along is really what pulls the rug out from under you in this episode. Not only is Boley given a chance and then loses it because he doesn't believe in magic, but Henry has now resigned. A poor child has now resigned himself to never making wishes again because he is convinced that they do not happen. And the sad irony, the dramatic irony for us as the viewers, is that we watched everything unfold and we watched Boley have a chance at victory. We watched Henry's wish come true, and Henry will never even know that he actually got a wish that happened. It's very sad on so many levels. Even though this is not an episode of The Twilight Zone that has death or destruction or the world ending, this is an episode that's a lot more subtle and a lot calmer and quieter. It's sadness. It's hard to think. I'm sure that all of us out there have some big, tall wish of our own that we wish could be fulfilled. Some of you probably have had that happen, and I hope to have that happen to me as well. I do have my lovely wife and my children, and that is a big, tall wish that I've had fulfilled. I do hope in the future that my writing will take off and become popular also, and maybe that is a big, tall wish of mine. Long Distance Call, Season 2, Episode 22. Billy is celebrating his 5th birthday with his grandma, who's very elderly and frail. She gives him a toy telephone and tells him that he can call her whenever he likes to talk to her. Soon after, she becomes delusional as her body is shutting down. She fails to recognize Billy's father, Chris, as her son, and instead thinks that Billy is actually her son. Billy starts to spend a lot of time using this toy telephone, which is alarming to both of his parents, Chris and Sylvia, his mother. He tells them he is talking to his grandmother, which they just think is a way for a 5-year-old to deal with his grandmother's passing. He says that she tells him she is lonely and that she's missing him. While everyone is at the funeral, Billy suddenly runs out into traffic and almost gets hit by a car. The driver barely manages to miss him.
Billy doesn't play in the streets.
I know, Mr. Bales. That's why I didn't say anything when he went out.
Oh, it's surely what happened.
Well, he played in the streets today. He ran right out in front of my car. Didn't even have time to put the brakes on. I couldn't have missed him by more than a few inches.
It wasn't my fault, Mr.
All
Bales.
right, Shirley,
honest.
apparently it wasn't anybody's fault.
And afterwards explains that Billy said that someone told him to jump in front of the car. When Chris asks him why he did it, Billy doesn't really know, or he says he doesn't know. Chris explains to him that Grandma has died and that he is not to use the telephone anymore. A little later on, Chris and Sylvia are talking, and Chris explains to Sylvia that his mother, meaning Billy's grandmother, had 2 children before Chris.
She had 2 children before me. She lost them both. She just couldn't let go. I was all she had.
Except for Billy.
But Billy was me again. Chance to go back, to pretend all those other years never happened.
This explains why Chris's mother was so attached to him and Billy as a result, because it sort of helped make the years of loss a little less painful. One night, Sylvia is awakened hearing Billy laughing and talking in the other room. She goes to find him playing with the toy telephone, even though he was told not to. And when she picks up the receiver, she hears Grandma on the other end. She drops the phone, breaking it by accident. Very upset, Billy storms out of the room. And when Chris and Sylvia find him again, he is face down in the garden pool. One of the EMTs informs them that Billy's chances are not looking good. Chris runs upstairs to the phone and picks it up. He begs his mother to let Billy live.
If you really love Billy, give him back. He's only 5. He hasn't even started. Mother, you said Billy gave you life again. Now you can give him life.
Soon after, the EMTs finally revive Billy. Sylvia and Chris hug, overjoyed to see that their son is still alive. Now, this one for me is sort of difficult in a couple of different ways because I have a really hard time seeing children hurt or helpless, and it reminds me of, God forbid, a situation where my children are in that position. The multi-layered levels of the grandmother where she just wants someone to talk to, she loves Billy, and she wants to see him again or at least hear from him is very saddening. But at the same time, there is a little bit of horror element in the fact that she is so unwilling to let go that she is willing to bring a 5-year-old child to the other side just so that she's not alone. And this kind of goes the opposite way from the beginning episode, Night Call, where it was an elderly woman speaking to a long-lost fiancé. In this case, it is a young boy who is full of life, whose grandmother has passed, but the grandmother really wants to be with him again. And there is a level of unhealthy attachment there that is explored in this episode. On the other hand, it also reminds me of my own grandparents, who have sadly passed many years ago. And if I had the opportunity to talk to them, especially if I were able to talk to those that had left this earth far too quickly, it would obviously be a good opportunity to say hello to them again and just to speak to them one last time. I wonder what I would say if I had one opportunity to say goodbye. Okay, those were some sad episodes. Lost opportunity, lost loved ones, regret from having to live with the fact that you killed someone, regret from those who are gone that they can't stay with those that they love. I want to thank all of you who gave some suggestions for the saddest episodes of The Twilight Zone Part 2. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to continue doing these from now until the end of time, because not only do I love The Twilight Zone, but I see that you all do too. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you soon.